Good morning. Today is Wednesday, the 6th of March, 2013. Here's all the headlines it's worth talking about today. The first headline today isn't a Panama headline, it's a Venezuela headline. Hugo Chavez died yesterday afternoon. I got to tell you, most people are not going to speak their mind clearly about this guy, but I have no hesitation doing that. I'm glad he's dead, and I'm glad to see that he's gone. He was a drug trafficker. He manipulated the Venezuelan people. He manipulated the Venezuelan Constitution. He got himself elected for 14 years from 1999 to 2013. Listen, that boy was never going to leave power, and this is the only way that that Venezuela would ever be free of this plague. Go away, Hugo Chavez. I'm glad that he's friggin' dead. And I'm with the Venezuelan people that are dancing in the streets, celebrating. I know that this guy, a lot of people liked him. A lot of people were suckers that were able to, they either got something from him or whatever. Hey, listen, I know where my head is at, and I'm crystal clear, and I'm glad the guy's gone. One way or the other, he's dead. Adios, good riddance. Now we can stop saying the name Hugo friggin' Chavez, okay? Just look at the air trafficking drug routes from where the cocaine has been moved from Venezuela by air across the Caribbean into Nicaragua. From there, via land through Mexico, okay? Take a look at it. That's what he did. He's a drug trafficker. No better than Manuel Noriega or any of the other two-bit drug trafficking military dictators that have had a long history in Latin America. So he's one more, put another notch on the side of the monitor and write him off. Adios, you bastard. So there's me on Hugo Chavez, my opinion for what it's worth. Hey, look, here's people in Panama, Venezuelans, who are having parties because that bastard died yesterday. So there you go. Moving on from the dead guy, the minister, the La Prensa newspaper had a thing yesterday where they were hammering him on the Ministry of Education about the purchase of some backpacks for school kids and how much money they spent. Well, yesterday the Ministry of Education came out and said, hey, listen, going back to 2010 or 2011, we had to buy 810,000 backpacks, and we had to do it in a hurry. And they defended the contract, and they basically told La Prensa, we didn't do anything wrong or illegal, and none of the money was stolen, so screw you. That's the short version of that story. Where did it go? Okay, there's a related story to that. In the Siglo, today there was a study that was released saying that 16% of school-aged children in Panama are not enrolled in schools. What they did was they've got two sets of numbers. The one set of number is the census data that was taken a couple of years ago, so they know how many people there are in the country and how old they are, which gives you when what they consider to be school-age kids is from age 4 through age 17. They do have a preschool program in Panama. So you take the number of school-age kids from 4 to 17, and then you take the number of students released by the Ministry of Education. This is how many kids they have in the system. That's how many kids there are. Do the math. 16% are not enrolled. Now, according to the Ministry of Education, the majority of those are the kids that are not enrolled in the preschool program because parents simply don't do it. They wait until they hit kindergarten age or first grade, then they get them in the system. So, according to the Ministry of Education, that's where the biggest degree of non-coverage is. So anyway, that's related to the story about the backpacks because they would have had to buy more backpacks, I guess. I don't know. All right, Panama America. On the case of Financial Pacific Brokerage House. Okay, this is the thing that's been coming out lately in the last couple of days, that there's been more headlines coming out because Maite Pellegrini, her lawyer Zule Rodriguez, has been hitting the press saying that she's going to come out and make more statements against these directors of the Financial Pacific Brokerage House, specifically having to do with insider trading, an account called High Spirit, and the Petequia gold mining stock in Panama, according to her. Now, it turns out that recently, just in the end of February, the superintendent of market securities came out and suspended the broker's licenses of the directors of this company. And what that does is it says they can't be brokers, they can't run this company, and they can't be associated with any other brokerage kind of thing. In other words, they're completely off the map. Now, it started off back in October where the superintendent of market securities did an intervention of this company and said, we're going to put our people in charge to make sure that the investors don't get ripped off. Amazingly, incredibly, beyond all possible comprehension, the Supreme Court of Panama intervened and stopped the superintendent of market securities from doing their job. And they said, no, wait, you can't intervene in them. They haven't decided the case. They just issued a ruling that stopped it, and now it's been in limbo ever since October, okay? When that happened, the superintendent of market securities says, okay, we can't intervene? Fine, we're suspending their license. Yank, they can't operate. So the Supreme Court doesn't have any power to stop them from doing that, and now they've turned around and they've yanked the licenses on these two guys, probably because they were going out and doing the same kinds of things. Even though they couldn't operate under Financial Pacific, they were probably doing similar kinds of things off the ranch or something like that. I mean, there's got to be a reason for it. But anyway, this whole thing about Financial Pacific and insider trading and this whole scandal is probably going to get bigger, and I think it's going to go international. I believe it's going to be investigated by the, whatever it's called, it's in British Columbia, Vancouver, where Petaki is based. If there was insider trading going on, I believe those guys are going to, I believe they are investigating it right now, and eventually that will come out and there will be some headlines along those lines, because it's not going to get investigated in Panama correctly or the way common sense would normally dictate. Okay, moving on. Caught a bad guy. Here's this dude that was wanted for murder. He shot somebody, and they were looking for him, and then the police got a tip that he was hiding, so they went and rounded the guy up. His nickname was the Little Monster. Go figure. Yeah, wanted for murder, apparently killed somebody, lots of witnesses. So anyway, the Little Monster is off the street. Next, moving on here to the Telemetro. The Metro bus system, which was put in place by the Martinelli administration, which is used by about 700,000 people who depend on public transportation, supposedly by 15 March, beware the Ides of March, that system is going to be fully in place, and there will be no more of the old buses running around anywhere. Supposedly. So, the deal is, supposedly, we'll see how this works, when 15 March comes in, you can stand on the side of the street, and if you see a Diablo Rojo going down the road, you go, illegal, 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 and it's going to be relatively simple for the police and the transit authorities to round these guys up that are still driving their old buses around, even though they're not supposed to, and yank them off the street. So, 15 March, next week, is when the Metro bus system is supposed to be fully in place. At least in Panama City. I don't know about the rest of the country. Okay. The United States issued their annual report on drugs, and they always include what countries are involved in drug trafficking, what countries are involved in money laundering, what countries are cooperating to a lesser degree, to a, more or less. Are they moving up or moving down? Are they doing better? Are they doing worse? And they break it down by country. And of course, every year there's a section in that report about Panama, and every year that the report gets issued, then there's always a reaction in Panama because they focus on that report. The section about Panama basically says that, yeah, there's still drugs trafficked through Panama, and that Panama is less of a drug trafficking country nowadays and more of a money laundering country. So you can expect that the emphasis on control issues for Panama are going to focus on money laundering. And what's the effect on that for us Americans and Canadians and expats, English-speaking expats that live in Panama? The HSBC Bank, based out of England, or Hong Kong actually is where it grew out of, was recently fined $1.9 billion for money laundering out of Mexico and with Iran and all this kind of stuff. Did anybody go to prison? No. No. When you're a massive bank like HSBC and you can pay a $1.9 billion fine, you can buy your way out of going to prison, okay? But what did these guys do? They closed the accounts of Americans in Panama. They just, if you got a U.S. passport, your account's closed. Bye. Then they turned around and sold their bank, the HSBC Panama section. They sold it to a Colombian bank. They's like, you know what? We're out of here. Boom. Why would they do that? I know why. Because they were laundering money in Panama. Probably. They know that the investigation is going to follow them down here. They're like, you know what, man? Time to bail while we still can. Let's sell this bitch and get the hell out of Dodge. Just speculation on my part. Do I have the ability to investigate any of this crap that what banks are doing with drug trafficking money? Of course not. But you can line the chips up on the table and go, let me see, that happened and that happened. And now, hey, this report comes out and guess what? The biggest problem that's going on in Panama is money laundering. Yeah, okay. Anyway, expect it to be even harder to open a frigging bank account in Panama. Even just, it's ridiculous. You're just a retiree schlepping down here to get some sun and a Mai Tai, and you can't open a frigging bank account. Oh well. All it takes is one money launderer and screws it up for the rest of us, right? Okay, here we are in Mediadio. Today at 10 o'clock in the El Panama Hotel, they are going to be signing this ethics pact that the Catholic Church is trying to jam down the throats of the Panamanian electoral system. The Panamanista Party and the PRD has said, yeah, well, sure, we'll sign it. There's already people showing up over there at 7 o'clock in the morning waving their flags, and they've got their party flags and stuff. There ain't nobody there from the Cambio Democrático Party, and there ain't nobody there from Morena. Now, the Cambio Democrático and Morena are the ones who have the best chances of winning in the election in May 2014. The Panaministas don't have a snowball's chance in hell, and the PRD, they got a shot with Juan Carlos Navarro. We'll see. Those are the guys who are like, sure, ethics pact. We'll take anything we can get that might help us slide a knife into the ribs of the Cambio Democrático Party. Cambio Democrático is like, you know what? The law covers this. The electoral law gives us the rules, and as long as we abide by those rules, we're out. So I wonder. They're saying we want Ricardo Martinelli to show up and sign this thing. He should sign it. He's not going to be a candidate in 2014. That's my take on this thing. Is the Cambio Democrático party should sign it, and then the candidate can do whatever the hell he wants, basically. And besides, define what a dirty campaign is. You can say, I'm just responding to that guy. You know how it goes. They're politicians. They're going to do whatever the hell they want anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay, let me see. Last thing here that I've got. Today, the truck drivers, the truck driver strike that's going on up there in the border with Costa Rica. Today, the Panamanian and Costa Rican and Central American truck drivers will sit down on the Costa Rican side of the border and have negotiations or talks with officials from the governments of Panama and Costa Rica. They have a list of things that they're bitching about, most of it having to do with the administrative processing of trucks and the paperwork that they need to have in order to move from point A to point B. Like, you have to have a bill of lading for an empty truck. Why? I don't know. What they're saying is, their primary complaint, when you read this list of complaints and you boil it down to brass tacks, basically they're saying there are all of these requirements that we have to fulfill, but there's not enough people, workers, for customs, immigration, the transito, the traffic control guys, the Senafront. There are all of these people all of these things that we have to comply with. Fine, we'll comply with them, but you got to put the people in place so that we can do this stuff, because you're slowing us down and you're costing us a lot of money. That's the complaint in a nutshell, and they really just need to hire more people and put more warm bodies behind the desk, or make the warm bodies that they've already got up there show up to work and do their jobs. So it's really pretty simple. Okay, I'm running over once again. That's it. That's everything. Thanks for watching. I'm out. Have a great day. Bye.